Hi, this is John from Sharp Mountain Games, and today we're going to look at some of the pros and cons of playing in media universes. You know, things like Star Wars, Middle-earth, the Marvel Universe. So stick around after the intro. So it seems like there either is or has been an RPG for just about every licensed media universe. You know, things like Star Wars, Star Trek, Middle-earth, Marvel, and DC. These have all had not only games, but like multiple games and multiple editions in different companies. Now there's Aliens and Blade Runner and I think G.I. Joe and Transformers. So obviously these have a lot of appeal for folks. And let's talk about some of the pros of running in these licensed universe. Now, let me just say something kind of as a little sidebar. If you really want to try something in the Aliens universe or Star Wars or whatever, I would say run a session first with some rules that you already have. You know, just modify a system that you already have, or if you can get a quick start online. You know, make sure you like it, make sure your players like it before you spend 40 to 60 bucks on a rule book. I'm not saying don't buy rule books, of course not. You know, buy it if you enjoy it, but, you know, maybe take it for a test drive first. Just a little bit of advice from cheap old me. So let's look at the pros. First of all, it's familiar. People know and love these properties. They really want to spend more time in these universes and maybe even make their mark there. It's fun and it's nostalgic. You know, it's what people played as children. You know, probably as children, you wanted to be Luke Skywalker or He-Man. You didn't necessarily want to run around the woods being generic space guy or generic sword guy. You know, you really wanted to be in those particular universes. So it has a lot of nostalgia. And I also think, and I'm certainly not the first one to say this, that it's very easy to recruit non-RPG players for this, or at least easier. You probably know someone who likes Marvel movies, or maybe comic books, or Harry Potter, or something like that. So a universe is a great way to hook them in. And in fact, another little side note, I think with Harry Potter and like Pirates of the Caribbean and some other media properties, I think there were some lost opportunities there to try and hook people into the hobby. But there's some cons. There's some things that maybe aren't perfect when you're running in a licensed universe. And the first one I call, everyone can't be Spider-Man. So if you're running something where you're using established characters, you know, everybody can't play Spider-Man. Or if you're playing Batman, well, somebody's got to be Robin, and maybe they're not as keen on that. So I've even heard, and I don't know, I can't confirm this, of grown adults arguing, you know, in a superheroes game, who gets to be what, because they really, really wanted to be their favorite hero. Another thing I think is that not everybody's a lore expert, and that's fine. But one problem is they may not play a character or an established character to type for that particular universe. For example, Starfleet officers, if you're running Star Trek, are not murder hobos. And I was running a con game a number of years ago where really one player was acting in a way that really probably would have gotten them court-martialed had I not been nicer. You know, and you might say, well, who cares? It's just a game. And that's true, but you still want to try to maintain, you know, a certain feel for that particular universe. You don't want to pull yourself out or pull the other players out of the tropes of that particular universe. And another thing with lore is that some players may feel intimidated if they're not overly familiar with the setting. So, you know, and that's true. Even if you love Star Wars, I think it's nearly impossible to keep up with every TV show these days from Disney Plus and every comic book that Marvel's putting out. I know I don't have time to read them all. You know, you have to kind of pick and choose how you spend your leisure time. So people can't keep up with all that lore. So it could be intimidating if they feel like they're going to be expected to know certain things within the game. For example, if I was playing in a Babylon 5 game, it's just a show I didn't really watch, you know, nothing against it. It's just I'm not familiar with it. I don't know how good of a job, or I might feel intimidated in that particular universe. Like I said, no knock against it. I'm just not familiar with it. And another last point of a con is that the second fiddle syndrome. You know, let's face it, Luke Skywalker gets to face Darth Vader. Frodo gets to take the ring to Mount Doom. But for most of our games, you know, the PCs will be probably doing lesser tasks and probably fighting lesser villains. So this could be a little bit of a letdown for some players. And let me just take a pause here and say, if you're getting anything out of the video, you know, give it a like. If you like what you hear here, give it a subscribe. And of course, you'll be able to comment on it, you know, whenever you like. Well, let's not just dump on the cons. Let's try and see if there's some solutions to them, or at least some little bits of advice that can help you run your games better. Now, I would say these are things that come from my experience. I don't say that they're necessarily normative, but I've done a bit of this, and I hope I can bring something to the table. And again, in the comments, you can too. So one thing that I would always suggest is don't necessarily use established heroes as the PCs. So when I run a superhero game, I'll have available certain archetypes, like a Superman type or a Batman type or a speedster, but the speedster won't be the Flash, for example, or the Superman type won't be Superman. He'll just be a really strong superhero who can fly. And that way they can take the characters and really make them their own. And I've had players tell me that they enjoy this quite a bit. And they also don't have to worry about, well, I don't know the personality of the Flash, or I don't know the backstory of everything of the Flash. How would I role play this? They don't have to. They're playing their own hero. They're bringing something new to the table. Another option is to run adjacent universe games, what I call them. So you can use the NPCs and the villains and the trappings of a particular setting, but just tell your players right up front, hey, look, we're not worrying about all the lore. We're in the same universe, but it's our universe. It's not necessarily exactly like a particular book. So, for example, a few weeks ago, I had the good fortune, I ran a Planet of the Apes style game. And I told the players right out front, we'll have chimpanzee scientists and gorilla soldiers and things like that. But we're not worried about, the movie with Charlton Heston as Taylor and all that. And then they eventually blow up the planet. We're just not doing that. And I've reserved the right to make a few little changes to the lore there, too. So there's no stress. We're just playing in our own Planet of the Apes style universe. Now, another suggestion, again, not original to me, it's been around a long time, is maybe you want to allow continuity changes. I call this the branching universe. So if you want to run Star Wars and you want to allow your players to kill Darth Vader and allow the story to branch off from there and change from what happened in the movies, that's great. That's your prerogative. And in fact, other than fan fiction, this is really one of the few mediums where you can do that. What I might say is you might want to discuss that with your players first, just to say, make sure, are you okay if we do things that are a little bit different than the movie or might, change things from a movie or a book or something like that? And let's face it, if you give players the chance to possibly eliminate Darth Vader, you can't tell me they're not going to want to take that. So this is a real option, but I discuss it to make sure. Now, here's the last solution or just thing to think about. And this is nothing new, but just relax and have fun. Maybe your PCs don't get to destroy the One Ring, but they do get to protect their home village from Sauron's forces. I think you can tell a really good story with that. Even if it's not the big, huge, epic, world-changing event, I think you could still tell a very emotionally satisfying story with that, or your players could. You could really give them decisions and chances to make these choices. And don't be a slave to the lore yourself as a game master. Like I'm saying, relax, have fun. If you don't remember the name of Peter Parker's mom and dad, it's not the end of the world. You can always look that up later if you want. If you don't remember exactly which European country Dr. Doom rules, not a big deal. Or you can just change it and say, well, in this game, it's this way. Really, the bottom line is if everyone had fun, you did it right. Except for that one guy. There's always that one guy who's going to have some gripe about something. But what can you do? But, if most people had fun and you had fun, hey, go for it. So running games in a licensed, familiar universe really can have some challenges. But I really do think it's great fun as a side adventure or a campaign, a small campaign. See what your players want to do. And here's the bottom line. When you're running these Media Universe games, it'll probably also get you out of the dungeon for a while, which I think is a really good thing for the hobby and for all of us to run different genres. If you follow this channel at all, that's nothing new. You know that I really encourage folks to run different genres and different games. Not just dungeon crawling. Not that that's bad, but not to do that exclusively. A little fresh air, it's good for all of us. So please, let me know in the comments what you see as the pros and cons or any solutions you have for running things in these shared media universes. You could stick around and see what Sharp Mountain Games has to offer if you like. That'd be great. And most of all, thanks for watching. So here at Sharp Mountain Games, we have a few adventures in print, such as the Star Mermaid, the Dwarven Pickup Truck, and the Sky Tree, and you can check those out at Amazon, Lulu, and drivethrurpg. Also over on drivethrurpg, we have a number of other adventures and character classes, and even some stock art. On Roll20, we have some map packs and character cards, so you can check those out if you're interested. And as always, please like and subscribe, and we hope to see you again real soon.